Welcome to episode number 2 of the Dr. Stoppage podcast. That's Keelin McNamara. I'm Tanaay Shah, and we're ready to get into things. We had an awesome Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez card, and obviously the main event was freaking great too. Then we had a nice Bellator card as well the night before, where Cyborg KO'd Tate. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Tanaay Kavanaugh. I have to make sure with Keelin because she's from Dublin, Ireland. And then I'm going to get into a little bit of what Jon Jones and Henry Cejudo are up to, and then our top 5 list for the week. Keelin, how's it going, man? How are you?
Dude, it is good. Back here for number 2. Back out here to discuss Holloway, Rodriguez, and anything and everything else. How have you been?
I'm doing well, man. And I want to apologize to you. Last time when we did the episode, we forgot to mention Keelin's highlight reel, his Substack. So go check that out. Use your email and sign up for it. It's all sports, right?
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much anything and everything you will find there.
And Keelin's not just smart with the MMA and things like that. He also knows soccer, football, MotoGP, and a few other sports as well. So please check that out. Sign up with just your email. Doesn't cost you anything, but it helps our boy out.
Love it, bro. Thank you.
Definitely check that out. All right, so let's get into it. We had fight night with obviously Max and Yair headlining. I'm just going to pull up the card right now. We can talk about a few performances on it. Starting with in the prelims, I really enjoyed, obviously, Jang Da-un. I thought Kennedy and Cejudo was going to get the knockout, but Jang, he laid those elbows on him, and then 3 minutes into the first round, he got the win. What'd you make of that?
Dude, that was a vicious win. I mean, those elbows were something else. Like you said, I thought Undisputed would win as well. That was actually my pick, and Jang Da-un just destroyed him, picked him apart for the entirety of that fight. I mean, what a statement to send, because Jang Da-un is really an up and coming star. So to dispatch him the way he did was incredibly impressive.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think Jung looked really big too. I mean, I know it's 205. There are big boys there, but Jung looked really big. And Kennedy's coming off the Dana White Contender Series rub and all of that, and then getting a win over a fighter like that is a big deal. So good on him. Then Rafael Alves had a submission. It was a guillotine over Mark Diakise. Diakise is another name who's now fought in the UFC for a little while, and people thought he'd come up and win. But Alves, I mean, what can you say about that submission, you know?
Dude, great win for Rafael Alves. I mean, this was at 145, right?
Yes, 155.
Oh, it was 155, right? Yeah, because I know Diakise has bounced between those two before, so just wanted to make sure. Yeah, this is a big win for Rafael Alves. You know, Mark Diakise is a bit weird in that he's never really been around the title picture, but he's still a big name within those divisions. So Rafael Alves, to pull out such an impressive flying guillotine as well, was very, very impressive. Stunned Diakise with that shot, had him backing up, flew straight into the guillotine. Obviously, Rafael Alves' jiu-jitsu is very, very good, very strong, very solid. And to pull off a guillotine like that against a guy who's no slouch like Mark Diakise makes it all the more impressive. Great win for Rafael Alves, and he's on a run right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was also inside the first 2 minutes of the fight. So he got him dry and he got his neck. So good on him. Then we'll move on to another first round finish with Sean Woodson. This was probably my favorite performance of the night, despite Max being on the card, which is saying something, because Sean Woodson looks so flowy and he was just touching him. He knows how to use his range really well, although sometimes he's, susceptible to being hit. But I think he's an awesome striker, and he's so flowy. I love to watch him. 4 minutes, 30 seconds, puts him down with a body shot.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really add much more on that. You summarized it perfectly tonight. Sean Woodson's boxing is very, very good, and his range mastery for a guy like him is very, very impressive, I have to say. That was the main thing I picked up on watching that fight as well. And to finish him with such a dig to the body as well really puts an exclamation mark on how good his boxing is. Sean Woodson's one to watch, man. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, he's going to be a fun one for sure. He's so tall for featherweight. I mean, and Colin Anglin, good on him. He tried after those first couple of body shots, but then you can't do anything when it's really hurting that bad. You got to go down.
Yeah, it was just the right call at that point.
then we had a perennial contender, Cynthia Calvillo. She dropped one to Andrea Lee. I think it was a corner stoppage. Unfortunately, not a doctor stoppage for us. That would have been nice. But yeah, Andrea Lee, I mean, that was a very close line and people saw a lot of value in Cynthia Calvillo, but I just couldn't take a chance because she hasn't looked great in the recent past. Andrea Lee, up and comer, and she's doing really well. I thought it was a great fight, honestly, much better than I expected. They were both throwing hands, and Andrea Lee came out on top, landed more damage, and got the TKO.
Yeah, I have to admit, I didn't think Andrea Lee would win this, and it would be a bit lopsided, but you're absolutely correct. This was way closer than I even thought it would be. Cynthia Calvillo got into some really good exchanges, threw a lot of power behind her shots. Unfortunately, Andrea Lee just beat her to the punch too many times, too much power too quickly. And, you know, the actual stoppage, I think, was probably the right one. But I have to say, Andrea Lee, this is very impressive. Cynthia Calvillo, again, a bit like Marti Akise, a big name in that division. And this is a big scalp for Andrea Lee. This is on to bigger and better things for her now, for sure.
Yeah, Cynthia was probably ranked 4 or 5 at 125. And yeah, definitely a big step for Andrea Lee. And then the biggest surprise of the night, in my opinion, was Thiago Moises dropping one to Joel Alvarez. I mean, Alvarez is known for his submissions, and he just goes there and knocks out Thiago Moises, a guy who's fought Islam Makhachev last. So, I mean, that's a big deal. Joel Alvarez is fucking massive for 155. So, and he definitely used that as well to get Moises out of the way.
Dude, Joel Alvarez looks like a big ass welterweight.
Yeah.
The fact that he's in 155 is amazing. And, you know, Joel Alvarez is a very good fighter. So the fact that he beat Thiago Moises, it's still a little bit of an upset. But what makes it as big an upset as you said is the fact that he fucking destroyed him on the feet. If this had been a first round anaconda or something, I wouldn't have been surprised. The fact that he went in and beat up Thiago Moises for as long as he did is really where the shock factor lies here. I mean, have you seen the cut on Moises' head? He did some damage. I mean, just seriously impressive for Joel Alvarez. Can't say much more than that.
Yeah, honestly, he's one to watch. They were saying he had some weight issues, so if he can get that, you know, if he can get that down, that whole process, he would definitely be a solid contender at 155.
He's mentioned, I think I saw on the news earlier, he's mentioned the possibility of hiring a nutritionist for his next fight. So if that works, then I'm really looking forward to seeing what Joel Alvarez brings to the table because he is exciting.
Yeah, 100%. So that was 5 finishes we talked about out of 6 just on the prelims. So that's how great that card was. Started in the afternoon in America, and it was a good time. And then we move on to Song Yadong, Julio Arce. Song, honestly, that guy's powerful, dude, for 135. I think he's the hardest hitting 135er out there. Maybe him and Jan, maybe Aldo. But Song Yadong, dude, it's awesome. Good for China. And then he fights out with Team Alpha Male, so I love watching Uriah on the sides as always.
Absolutely, man. Song Yadong packs so much power into such a small frame. That's what really surprises me the most about him. I mean, the power that was on display against Julian Arce was just something else. I mean, if Song Yadong can put all the pieces together, and, you know, he's had like a couple of issues with his wrestling and his takedown defense in the past. If he can sew all this together with, which at Team Alpha Male, he has all the tools to fix, he could be a real title challenger in maybe a year or two. I think you're looking at a star in Song Yadong. Yeah,
and the UFC will ride with him too, you know. They would never complain about another champion from China. So good on him, man. Take your shot. Keep knocking people out. I think he'll do really well.
Oh, for sure.
And then we had Chaos Williams versus Miguel Baeza. Great fight all around. First 2 rounds were back and forth. Baeza was using those leg kicks. But then those leg kicks were his downfall. Chaos Williams, like he caught Abdul Razak probably last year. With the leg kick, he just rushes you and then a left and a right put Miguel Baeza down. Chaos Williams, man. That guy also, speaking about power, packs a punch.
Oh, man. Chaos Williams just has so much natural power behind him. It's not even funny. It's funny because I was scoring all these fights in verdict as I normally do, and I actually got a perfect pick in this. I thought Chaos Williams would get a KO in the 3rd round. I have to admit, Chaos, the thing that impressed me the most about Chaos in this fight is not the power, because we know he's powerful. what impressed me the most was his adaptability. He showed that he's very able to adapt his game in the middle of the fight, which I think previously, again, he's had some issues with. One thing that he picked up on was whenever Miguel Baez threw that lead leg kick, his hands were dropping. And that's obviously something you cannot do. His lead hand kept dropping every time he threw that leg kick. And just one perfectly timed hook with that leg kick and bang, Miguel Baez is out of it. So credit to Chaos Williams. His leg was getting chewed up. That is true. But to be able to win in that way and to be able to fight through the leg kicks and use that as the beginning of the end of your opponent, very, very impressive for Chaos Williams. Couldn't be happier for him.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think Miguel Baez's corner was saying, dude, put your guard up when you throw those leg kicks. Don't throw 2 or 3 at a time because he'll get your timing and things like that. And yeah, man, to knock someone out like that with the bad leg, that just shows you like his skill and his power, especially. So Chaos Williams, another one to watch at welterweight. I think he's doing very well now since that one loss to Pereira. Then we move on to women's featherweight. Felicia Spencer TKOs Leah Letson. I didn't really watch much of this fight. I had to run some errands, so you can go into detail about it if you like.
Yeah, sure thing. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't like oversimplifying fights, but this was just a one-sided hammering, really.
Yeah.
Felicia Spencer, no disrespect to Leah Letson at all, because she's a very good fighter, but Felicia Spencer was far too good for her from beginning to end. Realistically, there were times in the first round when Felicia Spencer could have finished this if she'd have taken her opportunities. Fight went into the third round, finally got stopped. Yeah, she did some damage to Leah Letson. Those elbows against the cage, especially, some nasty cuts opening up in Leah Letson's face, some bad bruising, all the sort of standard stuff in a way. But Felicia Spencer really did make a statement here. She's very, very impressive. She looked very good on the ground too, I have to admit. There was a moment in the second round when I thought I'd have another perfect pick because I did think she'd get a submission on the ground. But you know what? It wasn't to be. Still got a very impressive win. And Felicia Spencer rolls on from here. She's keeping herself relevant at 145 as one of the only people who will fight Amanda Nunes because it's a dead division anyway.
Yeah.
But credit to Felicia Spencer, big win.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Felicia Spencer. I think she brings something really, she has a lot of heart and a lot of skill, and she has some confidence as well to back it up. And she's done well in the UFC besides Amanda Nunes, so good on her. I would love to see maybe Kayla Harrison, if she were to come to the UFC, to first take on Felicia Spencer and then get a title shot. I think that'll be a good stepping stone for either of the fighters. Whoever wins gets to fight Amanda again. Although, I don't know if you want to be in there with Amanda once you've been with her already.
Yeah, but that would be a great introductory fight, actually. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm. So that's that. And then we had the co-main event with the heavyweights. The veteran Big Ben Rothwell unfortunately got knocked out by Marcos de Lima. 32 seconds of the first round. Marcos just swinging. That's all the fight was. And then it was done. Herb Dean pulled off a classic Herb Dean as well. He touched him and then he wasn't sure to stop it or not. So that was pretty entertaining for 30 seconds. Unfortunately, that was not our pick or anything. That was a little sad, but yeah, man, anything happens at heavyweights. These guys just swing.
Yeah, exactly. I thought Marcos Rogerio de Lima would win. On the other podcast I basically give all the racing there, but I'll rehash it quickly here. Love Ben Rothwell. Ben Rothwell's an OG of the game. No one doubts that. But he leaves his chin so open, and he's always there for that counter hook. And Marcos Lima took it. Ben came out swinging. Lima caught him clean, and Ben was just falling against the cage from there. Yeah. Lima hit him with some bombs and really, really badly hurt him. Caught him flush with nearly all of them. I have to say, though, with the Herb Dean stoppage, because this is something I do feel that we should address, especially. I actually am more on the sympathetic side to Herb Dean here, and I will tell you why. People think that Herb hesitated, and I don't think that's actually what he did. Herb called the fight, but whenever Marcos backed off, Ben kind of fell into an accidental takedown attempt, and Marcos wasn't hitting him. He was trying to drag him in against the cage so that Herb Dean could break them up.
Yeah.
So I don't actually think it's fair people criticizing Herb necessarily. This is not a Mario Yamasaki. This is not this ain't that Russian dude in Abu Dhabi, all right? I think this was more of a genuine hesitant stoppage, more because of the situation rather than actually letting the fighter take punishment. So for once, I am on the referee's side here.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny what happened, and it's happened a couple of times now. Yeah. I mean, as long as the fight was stopped, because Rothwell didn't need to absorb any more damage. He got the job done. It was a little hesitant, like you said, but Herb Dean got the job done, but it was just another funny moment. You can, go after Herb. And then obviously we had the banging main event with Max Blessed Holloway and El Pantera, Yair Rodriguez. Yair came out on fire, man. His kicks are probably the fastest I've ever seen in the UFC. He came out, he did a lot of damage to that lead leg of Max. Max was touching him, and then slowly, once the body shots started to land, he grew in confidence. I think the first round was very close, maybe Yair, maybe Max. And then 2, 3, 4 was all Max. And then 5 was very shockingly Yair Rodriguez, I think, snatched that round after, being down the last 3. So good on him. I mean, nobody expected, the betting odds was minus 650, 700 for Max. No one expected the fight to be this close, but good on Yair Rodriguez, man. He turned up after 2 years of not being in the octagon, and he went toe-to-toe with Max Holloway.
Yeah, I mean, look, Yair Rodriguez's stock is going to go very, very high from this fight. Like you said, 2 years out against the greatest featherweight there's ever been, very strongly, arguably. And he put on a very good show. I mean, I think, I'm just trying to remember. I think I had it 4 rounds to 1 for Max, but I'm not mad at the 3 rounds to 2 either, because I can see why you would give round 5 to Yair as well. Mm-hmm. I definitely had round 1 because Yair came out really, really good. And what Yair did actually was expose the only chink in Max's armor that there is. He has got to defend those leg kicks more, because he's getting chewed up and chewed out every time he fights. And Max is one tough SOB. No one's ever going to argue that. But there's only so much toughness you can exhibit before you eventually fall. And, I'm scared that an Anthony Smith and a Jimmy Crute is going to happen to Max one day, and his leg's just going to blow out and give way from under him. You have to start checking these kicks, Max, because these aren't even small range finding kicks. He was throwing. This was like Dustin O'Connor level.
Yeah.
He was throwing his entire power into these, and he landed a good 20 to 30 leg kicks over the course of the fight that would really knock you out of commission. So really, that's my only criticism of Max. Everything else he did was pretty much a perfect fight. Got into a lot of firefights with Yair, which I didn't expect. I think he favored the brawling tactic in this fight over the clinical boxing. But credit to Max, he got the job done, hurt Yair with some big right hands. Like you said as well tonight, the body work really started to take its toll. One thing I will give Yair credit for as well, though, that's really been his big weakness in the past. His gas tank looks a lot better now than compared to when he fought before. I mean, is one of his last fights, he was struggling against Jeremy Stevens over 3 rounds.
Yeah.
And yet now he can go 5 rounds with one of the best gas tanks in the UFC. This is very impressive for Yair Rodriguez. His name is within the top 5 in the title mix at featherweight right now. I would comfortably put it there. So big respect to both guys, but Yair could not have come back much better.
Yeah, I think Max is hanging in the pocket because if he would do what he normally does, is probably punch and move and things like that. Yair has very weird sort of kicks and elbows and things like that, which he would be caught with. So he said, I might as well avoid those and stay a little close. That's what I'm assuming. I'm not certain about it. I also enjoyed Max's wrestling the whole fight. He had 3 takedowns, which is a record for him, especially that blast double leg was awesome. I was so hyped for that. I mean, what can you say? Max Holloway, like you said, has the best gas tank. That's his best quality, better than his boxing, his kicking, or anything, is his endurance and his chin. because he took kicks to the face, elbows, you name it, and he didn't even wobble. He still kept walking Yair down most of the fight. So I think his conditioning is the best part about his whole game. And yeah, man, Yair Rodriguez definitely, he was ranked 3 or 4 before this fight. I think he just keeps his ranking, fights Brian Ortega. And I think the winner of that should get the next title shot. Maybe not Brian, especially if Volk beats Max again. But I think Yair Rodriguez, if he can get past Brian Ortega, he could be the next challenger for Volkanovski if Volkanovski is still the champion.
Dude, I want to see Yair Rodriguez, Edson Barbosa.
That would be a banger. Or Giga too.
Or Giga Chikadze.
Yeah.
Those are my 2 picks for Yair, because they would be fight of the year contenders. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine the leg kicks between Barbosa and Rodriguez? I can't even.
It'd be insane. I think I honestly think Volkanovski Max 1A and 1B in the division, and then I think it's Giga Chikadze at number is the next best in that 145 division. Yeah. Because what he did to Edson Barbosa was just unbelievable. Like, you don't knock out Edson Barbosa in a stand-up war unless, I mean, obviously he has been knocked out, Gaethje, and you can name a few others, but Giga Chikadze really picked him apart, and that's saying something because Edson Barbosa is a world-class kickboxer.
Yeah, no one does that to Edson.
Yeah. That was very impressive. Well, yeah, I mean, we had Max saying, I mean, first off, Max has just been great all week. He was talking about how he's running up and down the stairs while people are taking the elevator, wanted to be handed opportunities because, it was everyone in every interview was asking him that, the UFC gave you an option to wait out and you can fight Volkanovski again, especially how Volkanovski Max 2 went. Plus, he battered Calvin Kattar in the fight after. So they were all asking him, why are you going to take a dangerous fight against someone who's not going to do much for you and Yair Rodriguez? And that's when he said, dude, I'm going to earn my shot. And that's what the best in the world does, is fights anyone and beats that person. So yeah, everyone, everywhere, every time, I think is his new merch, which I might buy some of. But
Max, give us the hookup. We'll plug the life out of it, I promise you.
I know. But I mean, yeah, super impressive from Max all week, he's just a class act, man. And even after the fight, he gave so much props to Yair Rodriguez, as Yair deserved those props as well. Viva Mexico was pretty cool. And then they asked him who he'd like to fight next. And it's Volkanovski or Conor McGregor. I also did enjoy Conor watching that whole fight and facing Max up. I thought that was hilarious. They were introducing Max on TV and Conor's pacing up and down, trying to face him off and things like that. I thought it was hilarious.
Oh my God, this is what Conor McGregor's become, ladies and gentlemen. We've gone from a champ to a man staring down his own TV. I mean,
it was awesome, I thought. Why not? I mean, it's Max Holloway. He's not staring down some unranked, unnamed person. He still wants a tough fight when he comes back after his leg break. So I can.
Fair enough, but I mean, it's not what I would have done. Let's put it that way. But you know what? Whatever, it is what it is. Yeah, Max is just a stud. He always has been. I expect nothing less from Max. And that's why he is so beloved. That's why he's one of the best. He will fight anybody at any time, and he's proven he's good enough to take on all the styles in his division. And I have to admit, I did love the Viva Mexico call out as well. Thought that was very, very sick. Massive respect to Max, big respect to Yair as well. And Max's stock is up, Yair's stock is up, and yeah, Viva Mexico.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, who do you think Max should fight next? Is it someone at 155 or Volkanovski?
It sort of depends. You can make a strong argument from fighting Volkanovski again, obviously doing that 3, but Max looked very good at 155 when he fought Dustin as well. My opinion on it is sort of this. I don't know if Max intentionally came into the fight at 146 or whatever that was, because Max has never struggled with a weight cut to featherweight. What I will say is that Max is 29 now, so he hasn't even age-wise hit his own prime, which is a terrifying thought. But in the next year or two, it's possible, I'm not saying he will, it's possible he might start struggling to make championship weight limit for featherweight. So I'd love to see him go up to 155 and test himself there. Really, outside of Poirier, who deservedly beat him, it's very easy to see Max beating a lot of those elite fighters at 155. I have to admit as well, and I think Max deserves the payday, so I would not actually be mad at seeing the Conor fight either. I think he has a really good chance of winning that too. So if Conor stops prowling up and down his living room, that could actually happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm good with that, but I think before he moves up to 155, he's got to get that belt back at 145. Just for my sake, for my mental peace. Just have that belt back.
It doesn't look right, does it?
It doesn't feel right. I mean, respect to Volkanovski, man. That guy's a hell of a fighter. And if I wasn't such a big fan of Max, he would have been one of my favorite fighters too, you know? So nothing against Volk, but I think Max is the champ, and I think that's the fight to make. And I think if he would have taken more time, like Dustin Poirier, he had like 4 fights that year when he fought him. 145, 145, 155, 145. So I think if Max takes his time in going from 145 to 155, has his body develop a little more, and then he can actually have some real power there as well, because that'll be the main difference, the power at 155 for Max. Because you look at Gaethje, Poirier, like Max outlanded Dustin Poirier in the fight, but Poirier landed the bigger, more powerful shots, and that's why he won. So I'd like to see Max 145 beat Volkanovski and that trilogy once and for all. I'm not saying he certainly will, but I think he will. And then take some time off, maybe 6 to 8 months. I know he likes to stay busy, and that's why we love him. But if he can take some time off, pack those pounds on, and then get some more power, move up to 155, and he'll be super competitive there. I mean, I love the McGregor fight. Justin Gaethje said he'd like to fight him. Dustin Poirier trilogy. Charles Oliveira, he already has a win over at 145, so all those names will be fine. And he said he has something in store for Islam Makhachev as well, so it'll all be interesting. We'll see when it happens.
Oh, for sure. I like your idea about building up to 155. Yeah. I do think that makes a lot of sense. And the thing is as well, if McGregor's the route that we're going to go down, let's get something clear right away. Conor ain't going back to 45 because his body will not be able to. So if anybody thinks that McGregor's going back to featherweight to fight Max, I'm sorry, that just isn't happening.
Yeah, I agree. Not going to happen. All right, so we were talking about moving up in weight, and we have another fighter, pound for pound, one of the greatest to ever do it, Jon Jones, who's been out for 1.5 years now. From light heavyweight, he's moving up to heavyweight. He's done a lot of weightlifting and eating and things like that. But recently he got kicked out of his gym. He got suspended by Jackson Wink because of some outside the octagon shenanigans. Nothing that we've never seen before from Jon Jones, unfortunately. So, I mean, I guess the coaches said enough is enough, and they suspended him in Albuquerque. Jon Jones is now training with Henry Cejudo and that team in Phoenix, Arizona, just like Willie Zhang did. Just like Davison Figueiredo did too. I don't know what's happening there. They're getting all these guys who need some help, you know. But good on them. I love it when someone can help another fighter, especially someone like Henry Cejudo. He's one of the best to ever do it in just wrestling and obviously in mixed martial arts as well. And it's also, I think, really funny that a flyweight bantamweight is going to help a heavyweight get to the top. I think that's really cool as well.
You know that meme of Francis Ngannou and Brandon Moreno? This is the exact inverse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the not so nice version of Francis and Moreno.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I have to agree with that. If Brandon Moreno did drugs, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very interesting line because obviously no matter where Jon Jones is going to go, he's going to be shrouded in controversy. We know what DC thinks of this. I'm not going to repeat the words he used because you've probably seen them already, but he has some very strong opinions in this, shall we say. I actually don't like this move, but not for those reasons. I like it because this is not what Jon needs to work on. You know, Jon's wrestling is already very good, and Henry Cejudo is an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling. Jon Jones needs Trevor Whitman. He needs someone to actually help with his boxing. He doesn't need help with wrestling. I think, to be honest with you, it's entirely possible that Cejudo's team are the only place that will actually take Jon. Otherwise, I think if Jon had his pick, he'd probably be on his way to Colorado with Trevor Whitman right now, because that's actually what he needs. He doesn't need a wrestling coach. So, I mean, look, he's going to change his scenery in Arizona. Good for him and all that jazz, but I don't see the benefit. It's not what he needs.
Yeah, I mean, change of scenery would definitely help, But I agree. I mean, he needs more striking. I don't think Trevor Whitman likes to have too many students, He says three of them is too much for him because Kamaru is the new guy on the block for them. And he said he's always said he likes to have a very small team. And I mean, it's pretty crazy if you have a team of three and all three of them are basically champions, Justin Gaethje is just short of being a champion. But I mean, I'm sure Jon knows what he's doing, and they're not just drilling wrestling out there. I'm sure Captain Albarracin I don't know, is he a wrestling coach more or is he a striking coach?
I don't know what he is.
But everyone says he's so great. I mean, he had the Pitbull brothers, Cejudo, Bohachinia, who's a striker. So, I mean, he's worked with a bunch of strikers. I'm sure Jon knows what he's doing. Honestly, it's good. I mean, Jackson, I think, did the right thing finally after so many years of so much bullshit outside of the cage for Jon. They said, enough is enough. We're going to have to suspend you. And then Jon moved on to another place, different location, new scenery. And he's working out with other champions. So I think it's going to help. Maybe it would help more if he went to someone like Trevor Whitman, you're right, to sharpen those other tools. But I don't think it's going to hurt too bad either.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we've already covered the main angle of what the story is, whether it's good, whether it's not, where he's going, all that kind of stuff. The truth is Jackson Wink should have dumped his ass 4 years ago. I mean, I agree that it's the right decision to get rid of him now, because I'm not going to go into the details of the controversies because they're in the news. You can read about them yourselves. The problem is that getting rid of him now doesn't make Jackson Wink look any better. All it looks like now is a token gesture, because it should have been. He's been through so much controversy already that getting rid of him now almost doesn't mean anything. So, I mean, look, at the end of the day, the right thing was finally done. They obviously think they can't help Jon anymore. But realistically, 3-4 years ago, this kind of thing should have been done. And they should have stamped this out then, if I'm honest with you. But that's just my 2 cents.
Well, I mean, it's tough to let someone go if they're the best you've ever seen. Because, they're bringing the attention, they're bringing the eyes, they're bringing the money. And he's such a good fighter that you just can't let him go. You have to be like, next, like, this is the last time he's going to do it. We're going to talk to him. And you give him 3 or 4 chances just because he's that good. I mean, it's tough. Like, he's a troubled person. What he did is not right by any means. But, I thought it was fine. Give him a chance. Give him another chance. And then finally, this time they had to let him go. Because he is that guy. I mean, he's one of the best of all time. You can't
but the question is, where do you draw the line tonight? I mean, I agree with your point, and it is fair. With someone like Jon, who is such a rare and exceptional talent, you do have to give him more leeway. I think that's a fair point. The problem is Jon has never even remotely shown any signs of trying to get better. He's never shown, really, in my opinion, any remorse or sincerity for what he's done. All he's ever shown is regret that he got caught. He's never actually meaningfully apologized for anything he's done. So I agree with the point about the gym. He does bring the publicity. He does bring the money. These are all facts. The problem is at some point you have to know when to let it go as well. And to be honest with you, Greg Jackson and Mike Winklejohn, it's the right decision, but it just feels like more than a token gesture at this point. To be honest with you, you've been through so much that you might as well just keep him now, because you're not going to look any better for getting rid of him 4 years later than you should have. But look, you're right. It is a mess. It's a messy situation. Probably not going to get any clearer or cleaner anytime soon, but we just make do with what we've got, I suppose.
Yeah. I met Greg Jackson, Mike Winklejohn. They're actually really nice people. I mean, they were super. Yeah, they were like super, responsive on text, any requests they had for Clarissa Shields, they would be really nice about it and things like that. Very friendly to talk to as well. I mean, for the level of coaching that they're at, they're very humble. So good on them. Maybe, I mean, like I said, maybe they felt like they could give Jon a few more chances, but this time it was enough. They said enough is enough and had to move on from that. I mean, I couldn't believe that Jon tweeted that what they did to him was unfair. Like, dude, come on. It's like not the first time, not the second time, not the third time. It's like the 10th time you've done something like that. I mean, you can't blame your coaches for just saying that you can't return to the gym at least for a little while.
And the thing is as well, Tanaay, and you probably know this as well as I do, look, Jon Jones isn't 21 or 22 anymore. He's a 33-year-old ass man. He's got children. He has a family. You know, if this had been the first or second time, I'd have probably been much more on your side with this and defending Jackson Wink because it would have been fair. But you need to grow the fuck up at some point, Jon. You can't keep blaming everyone else for what you're doing.
Yeah.
And to tweet that they're at fault for throwing you out.
That was what got me.
All they've ever done is use their back to take the bullets for you because they've taken so much heat over the years for not throwing you out already.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, I'm really disappointed in Jon because I've defended him in the past as well. And the fact that he would turn to his old gym and try and make them look bad for what they've done is just petulant. It's immature.
Yeah, the age point is so true. I mean, when he was 21, 22, like 25, whatever it is, like still not acceptable, but understandable. But now, like you're a 30-year-old man, you've had this much fame, money, whatever else that comes with it for over 10, 15 years now, but he still doesn't know how to handle it, unfortunately. So, yeah.
Which means he never will.
Yeah, that's a line from DC. So there you go. All right. I think we can move on from the Jon Jones topic.
Yeah.
Not a bad move going to Cejudo, but he could have done better, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to make a really bad joke there, but I'm not going to. No, I can't. I'll get cancelled tonight.
All right. That's fine. All right, then we had Bellator Friday night. A couple of flashy knockouts. I like Mauro Ranallo a lot when he says, Mamma Mia. I really enjoy that. And the main event was Chris Cyborg. Like we said, she knocked out her opponent. 1 round. It's all done. You can't you can't stand in the pocket with Chris Cyborg unless you're Amanda Nunes. You're gonna get caught because she's gonna have the heavier hands, and you're gonna get put on your back and get finished most likely.
Yeah, this very good fight from Chris Cyborg first and foremost. But the exclamation point from this fight for me is especially for Irish fighters, right? Because I'm from Ireland, no real shock there. People like Sinead Kavanaugh from Dublin. Please stop going out and pissing off your opponents and making yourself better than you actually are. Stop this. I'm going to knock out Cyborg. You're not going to knock out Cyborg. Yeah. Go out, fight the best you can, keep your mouth shut and fight your game plan. Don't stand in the pocket with the most dangerous featherweight fighter, arguably for now, that there's ever been. What did you think was going to happen? You stand, I mean, you're not even a great boxer with respect, and you stand in the pocket with Chris Cyborg, and you get knocked out. I mean, it's like standing in traffic and complaining when you get hit by a bus. I mean, what did you think was going to happen here, people? Come on. Surely in 6 weeks of training, you came up with a better game plan than to stand in the pocket and try and outbox Chris Cyborg. I mean, come on, man. Come on, you must have had something better in mind than this. But, yeah. I mean, issues aside, big credit to Chris Cyborg. I like how she tried to gas Sinead Kavanaugh up after the fight, saying she's one of my toughest opponents. We all know she isn't, but that's another conversation. Chris Cyborg, when I did what she needed to do, landed a nasty right hook to put her to the shadow realm. And really, tonight, that's all she wrote.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm just really happy for Cyborg. I feel like Dana White didn't like her that much, so she got treated a little unfairly at the UFC. She got criticized when she didn't deserve to be. Yeah. I mean, there were like drug allegations and stuff like that, but I mean, like, dude, everyone took drugs back in the day, like, and when there was USADA testing, she never failed a test, so you can't even say that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, so yeah, I'm really happy she's getting her money. She's got the belt at 145 at Bellator, and she's doing well. She seems happy. Like, good for her. She deserves it. I mean, she's the second best fighter, women's fighter, maybe of all time. I'll give her maybe second or third because of Valentina, but at 145, she's the second best. She's better than Ronda Rousey and, you know, things like that. So yeah, good for her. She's getting her wins, she's getting her money, and she's got her belt. So yeah, very happy to see, especially for someone who got criticized for fucking no reason.
Yeah.
You know, by the company she was with. So
this is what always, I mean, look, I know this isn't the topic point that we're talking about, but I do kind of have to cover on this. I will never understand why Cyborg got the heat she did from her own boss. Cyborg went in from day one, did what she was asked to do, and fought in the featherweight division. They literally let's not forget something here. They created that division for Cyborg.
Yep.
They didn't create that for Amanda Nunes. They created that for Chris Cyborg because she was such a draw. Why the hell do you go to the expense and the public exposure of signing someone like Chris Cyborg and then give them flack for the whole time they're there? I mean, tonight, do you understand this at all? Because I've thought about this a lot and I just cannot get my head around it.
No, I mean, that's why I'm happy for her now, and I could never understand the criticism. I mean, she was the best fighter at 145 forever. I mean, you made a whole division for her and then you criticize her the whole time she was there. I think it's unfair, but yeah, I don't see the whole point in that. That's why I brought it up. Like, dude, what is happening here?
You know, I have to admit as well, this is ancient history. I'm not trying to drag it up or anything, but whilst we're on the topic of Chris Cyborg, you know, even with Dana White himself, I mean, look, I like Dana White. He's different to any combat sports boss we've ever had, probably ever will have. But, you know, even the comments he's made about Chris Cyborg before were so unnecessary. Like, especially the one about Wanderlei Silva in a dress and heels. I mean, why? Like, what are you going to benefit from that, Dana? I mean, you've signed this woman and then you try and destroy her. Just like, why? Yeah. I don't understand it. But like you said, delighted for Cyborg, delighted she's got the belt, delighted she's making really good money as well. And I have to be honest, I'd love to see her fight Kayla Harrison at some point in the near future.
Yep. I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah, I mean, so Kayla, obviously her contract's up with the PFL, and if I was her, I would do the same. I would look at the PFL again as well, because you're almost guaranteed to win that $1 million every year, plus whatever you make per fight. But if you're looking for a challenge and maybe you get more money per fight in Bellator, you got Cyborg, and then UFC, you got Amanda Nunes, and like we said, Felicia Spencer would be a good step as well. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if she's looking at other places to go from the PFL. I like Coker saying that, he's going to sit down and talk to her. Dana was like, dude, she should just stay where she is and things like that. I mean, I don't know what he's thinking. Maybe he'll change his mind and say, like, that would be a huge fight if she took on Amanda Nunes at the UFC. But Coker understands that her taking on Cyborg is a big deal, and I think he could make it happen. But, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Kayla does signs with the PFL again.
Yeah, I mean, look, Kayla Harrison's an amazing fighter. She's great. She's a judo Olympian, for the love of God. You can't get any better.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I love her staying in the PFL because she's kind of becoming the face of female fighting at PFL, and that's a great thing. But I think if you sign her for Bellator, she starts to level up the way she should be, and she's doing it at her own pace against really good fighters. And if she can dethrone someone like Chris Cyborg, then that is huge for her career as well. I mean, people don't get it twisted just because she lost to Nunes. Cyborg is still a really dangerous fighter. And if you can go in and out wrestle someone like Cyborg and beat her up, then that is massive. And that makes her one of the biggest female fighters on the planet if she's able to do that. So, look, signing with the PFL, still a very smart move, guaranteed to win $1 million.
Almost. Well, yeah, guaranteed. Yeah, but like I will say the PFL got Julia Budd this year, so that could pose a little bit of a challenge, although Julia's a little older. But I think, what you were going on to say was probably a good move.
Yeah, I mean, look, she's got a really, really good chance of winning the $1 million prize, and she will still be the face of female fighting at PFL, which are great things. But I think it depends on what her end goal is. If her end goal is being the #1 female fighter on the planet and she wants to be the best of the best, then I'd sign with Bellator and continue your development because you get a lot of the same benefits and you're facing better competition, which in turn makes you better too.
Yeah, Bellator would be a good next step for Kayla Harrison, I think, as well. As much
Shout out
as
PFL, by the way.
What?
Shout out PFL.
Oh yeah, 100%. I was gonna get to that. Yeah, Bellator would be a good next step, but PFL is like Kayla Harrison's home. Basically, she's had most of her fights there, and she's been so dominant. I would even go forward and say that she's not just the biggest female star in the PFL, but probably one of the biggest. Period. Men and women, men or women.
Yeah, I would.
Because I would say we got Ray Cooper is there, Verdum, Pettis, Rory. They didn't turn up that well, but they're all there. You know his names. So from those 4 or 5 picks, you got Kayla Harrison right up there in the PFL. Yeah, so that's that on the Bellator. Chris Cyborg, we're actually very happy for you. I did want to mention that the whole time. And then next week we have Miesha Tate versus Keelin Viera. There's some good fights on that, some good fighters. I like Chiesa, Sean Brady. I think it's a really good fight. And Davey Grant, Adrian Yanez. I'm a big fan of Yanez. I think he's
Adrian
awesome.
Yanez.
Yeah. I think he's awesome. He's a great stand-up fighter, especially his boxing. What he did in his last fight was spectacular. Like, came back from being beat up in the first round to knock out his opponent. But yeah, another solid fight night. I'm surprised they gave Keelin Viera and Miesha Tate the headliner over Chiesa and Brady. I mean, that's just me, but maybe Miesha Tate wants a 5-rounder, so she can get him.
Yeah. I mean, it very well could be that. Either way, it's great to have Miesha Tate back. By the way, always been a big fan of her, and it's great to see her enjoying being back as well. And one thing, there's actually something on here really quickly that I'd like to mention on the topic of Miesha Tate. We have this whole debate about fighter pay right now, right? And I really want to applaud Miesha Tate in this because I think she's come in on the perfect side in this. Someone tried to drag her. I can't remember who tried to do it, but someone tried to drag Miesha Tate into the argument and claim that she was being underpaid for, I think it was her last fight. And Miesha Tate came out and said, look, I get paid really, really well by the UFC. How I choose that money and what I spend it on is my decision. Taxes aren't on the UFC. They don't set them. The government does. And what I spend my money on is my choice. So nothing major. I just wanted to give a big applause to Miesha Tate for that because that was a really cool thing she did.
Yeah, I mean, she was honest, and honesty is always good. You know, like she said, yeah, the taxes are not the UFC's fault, and how the lifestyle is not the UFC's fault either. So, yeah, there was some fighter pay issues, but she had her side and she spoke her truth, which makes sense to us, which is why it's definitely a good point.
For sure, yeah, most def.
Anyone else you like on that card? Any fight that stands out to you?
I have to admit, I've been having a look through this, and really it's Chiesa and Sean Brady that
I agree.
Obviously stands out. Joanne Calderwood's on there. You know, she's a very good fighter. To be honest with you, the big one that stands out is Davey Grant, Adrian Yanez. I just think that's a banger at bantamweight right there. Adrian Yanez, I think, will be in the title picture at some point next year, if not 2023. I think his progression's been so impressive. That last fight against, I think it was Randy Costa.
Yep, Randy.
One of my favorite fights of 2021. By the way, that's not getting enough exposure. That was a great stand-up contest for as long as that lasted. I mean, I love Adrian Yanez, and I think that's going to be another banger against Davey Grant.
Yeah, 100% agree. Well, the picks will be out on Thursday, and we'll put them up on our story and things like that. We did okay. We went 50%. Probably just about broke even on the money if you're betting the same units and stuff like that. So
yeah,
stay tuned. We at least didn't lose too much. That's a good thing. You know?
Yeah, but to be fair, those were weird fights as well.
Yeah,
some of them, so you can't really be mad at that either.
Like Thiago Moises lost, and heavyweights, anything can happen. So we'll do better. I mean, I'm sure Ian and Neil cooking up something nice for this week. All right, then we got the top 5 for the week. Our topic for this week is our favorite fighters. Obviously, Max Holloway fought, and he's my favorite fighter of all time. So we decided top 5 favorite UFC fighters currently that are fighting and that are active. So what do you want to do from 1 to 5?
I'm good with either. You want to do 1-5, 5-1, whatever works for you. I'm good with.
All right, sounds good. Let's go 1-5 then.
Let's go.
You got it.
Yeah, 100%. So my number one favorite fighter in the UFC right now is actually the guy who fights next month against Charles Oliveira for the lightweight title. It's Dustin the Diamond Poirier, and this isn't a hard pick to justify. Perhaps not an original pick either, but that's neither here nor there. I love the story of Dustin Poirier's career. I mean, he at one point he was very close to being cut from featherweight. You know, went through a really rough time. After the loss to Conor, that really set him on a very downward spiral for the most part. But he came back at a lightweight, came back with a vengeance, and came back to win the interim lightweight title. Lost to Khabib, but who doesn't lose to Khabib? It's a bit of a, it's a bit of a throwaway fight when you fight Khabib because everyone's lost to him, so it is what it is. Nearly every fight that he's in is a fight of the year contender. He's tough. He's got heart beyond anyone else. He is Dustin Poirier.
I love Dustin Poirier. I mean, it's surprising that you're an Irishman and you're picking Dustin Poirier as your number one, but that's how fucking good he is.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'll get on to McGregor another time for why I dislike him, but for now, I'm focusing on the positives, and I love Dustin. He's everything a mixed martial artist should be.
Yeah.
Unlike the loudmouth from my country, by the way. Dustin's the embodiment of what this game's about. Conor isn't.
Yeah, fantastic fighter. I mean, Dustin, I feel like he's almost still underrated after all he's done.
Weirdly, yeah.
It's weird. Like, he's beat every former champ, interim champ at 155 besides Khabib. In the recent past, at least.
That's amazing.
Unreal. Like, I think he'll beat Charles too, but we'll see. Charles is a tough guy. We'll talk about that next time. But Dustin Poirier, definitely a solid number one favorite fighter to have. He would definitely be in my top 10. My favorite fighter is obviously Max Holloway. I mean, what more can you say? You saw him, how he carries himself, how he fights. Everything he does is with class, and he is so exciting to watch. And I mean, I don't know, like yesterday, I almost didn't enjoy the fight that much, even though it was so competitive, because I was just so nervous for him. And that's how, like, my favorite fighter makes me feel weekend every time he fights, basically. Every time he fights, I want to see him fight like he did Cater or Ortega or something, where he doesn't absorb much damage. Like, I don't like to watch those close fights with Max Holloway. But I mean, dude, awesome fighter, awesome human being. And yeah, number one.
Dude, I love that so much. And I don't think you'll find a single fan who doesn't like Max Holloway. Yeah. So, I mean, you can't argue that. It's just too good of a pick to not be number one for a lot of people. And I love that. My number two is probably the most violent man in the UFC. Just had a fight of the year contender there against Michael Chandler. It's Justin, the highlight reel Gaethje. The human highlight reel. I mean, has there ever been a better nickname for a fighter than that? The man just personifies violence. He's got Roberto Duran's hands and the stamina of Holloway. I mean, those are two terrifying combinations. Those are two terrifying things to combine into a fighter. And yet Gaethje has it. He's the master. He's the professor of refined violence. A lot of people thought Chandler would beat him. Gaethje took him to pieces. His leg kicks are notorious for being brutal, and his hands, well, really, you don't want to be on the other end of them because you're going to sleep if you are. And there were several occasions when he could have done that as well to Chandler. That uppercut, I mean, I'm just going to leave that there so that you know how bad that was. Go and watch it. It was absolutely something else. Justin Gaethje is a fight of the year fighter every time that he fights. He brings maximum violence against everybody that he does fight. And he's just one of the most entertaining fighters that we have ever seen in any weight division. Justin Gaethje, number two.
Yeah, Justin Gaethje has had, 7 or 9 fights in the UFC? And every
he's 6-3.
Yeah, so 9 fights in the UFC. Every single fight, win or loss, besides Khabib, he's won a bonus. So that just tells you how fan-friendly and how exciting he is, not to mention his skills and his pace and his kicks and all of the other things that Keelin went over. My second favorite fighter is Valentina the Bullet Shevchenko. I mean, talk about a professional. She is so good at what she does. There's nobody compared to her in that division. I mean, her only losses in recent times have been to Amanda Nunes, which are so close. Both of those fights have been so close. Arguably, Valentina won one of those, but that's going against the GOAT. And that's going up one weight class against a massive Amanda Nunes. But look at what she's done to every single person. When she loses a round, people say, people make a big deal out of it. That's showing so much respect to Valentina Shevchenko. When she can go 4-1, dominate the fight, and still have people question, oh my God, she lost a round. That's how good she is. I love every single thing about her. She can kick so well. She can grapple so well. Her Muay Thai is on point. And then even outside the octagon, she's such a professional. She talks so well on the mic. And yeah, I mean, Valentina Shevchenko is my number 2 favorite fighter.
Dude, love it so much. Valentina is probably my favorite female fighter ever. Yep. I would have her over Nunes solely because of the skill. I think she's probably the most skilled female fighter all around that I've ever seen. So I love that. And she won the second fight, by the way, 3-2. By far, I have her as that. So love that pick. My number 3 is actually your number 1, the boy Max Blessed Holloway. Look, Max brings it every time that he's in the octagon. He's the greatest featherweight of all time in the eyes of many, and that argument's only furthering the longer he goes on. You know, did to Aldo what no one has ever done to Aldo. People will talk about McGregor, and that's fair, 13 seconds, but no one's ever beaten Aldo up over an extended period of time at his own division. And Holloway did it twice. So that tells you how goddamn good Max Holloway is. I really don't need to say much more about the man because you've said everything. Max Holloway, number 3.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. At number 3, I have Bobby Knuckles, Robert Whittaker. I mean, I felt so sad when Izzy knocked him out and took his belt. That was just so heartbreaking for me. Whittaker is such just a class person. Like, he fights so well. He's so good stand up, grappling, you name it. He takes on every fight. Look at what he's done after he lost to Izzy. He beat Gastelum. He beat Till. He beat Cannonier. People counted him out in 2 of those 3 fights, and he turned up on top of all of them. He didn't say no to anyone. He fought. He stayed consistent, and he's earned his title shot. That's what Robert Whittaker is. He fights everyone at any time. He's fought Yoel Romero twice and beat him twice in absolute wars. That's not an easy thing to do. You saw how the Izzy and Romero fight went. That was boring as hell. Whittaker made it a fight of the year and came out on top against one of the scariest guys to ever walk inside that cage. It's Robert Whittaker. He stays humble, and I hope he gets that belt back soon.
Dude, amazing pick. Love it. Love Robert Whittaker. Yeah. One of the most intelligent fighters who's active in the UFC by far, able to read the game better than anyone else. Love that a lot. My number 4 is my current favorite bantamweight, and the hills I have died on defending this man already on my other podcasts that I do. I can't even tell you the war stories. It's Corey Sandhagen, and I love Corey Sandhagen so much. I think he is the most entertaining bantamweight in a division full of entertainers. The skill that Sandhagen has is unprecedented. The flying knees, the kicks, his elite level boxing too. Sandhagen is kind of like, for me, the human highlight reel of 135, because every shot he throws can be a fight-ending shot. Look at the Frankie Edgar fight. Look at his fight against Marlon Moraes too. One of the elite bantamweights, no less. And he is a future champion. Mm-hmm. You know, he fought TJ Dillashaw in statistically the closest fight there has ever been on Verdict MMA. I still maintain fervently that Sandhagen won it. I see why people say Dillashaw. I had Sandhagen. And then he just fought Petr Yan, who many see as the legitimate champion of bantamweight, and he took him all 5 rounds. All right, he probably didn't win the decision necessarily, but he took it to him. He gave him the most damage anybody's had, and on a couple of occasions he did have him a little nervous as well. So for me, it's Corey the Sandman Sandhagen.
Yeah, I have the same exact pick at number 4, the Sandman. I mean, he is so entertaining, and one of the most underrated part of his game is his toughness. Like, people don't stand up to Petr Yan like that, especially once Yan gets going and gets comfortable. Like, he was landing on Sandhagen, and Sandhagen was just coming back. Besides the Aljamain Sterling fight, it was just a tactical misery for Sandhagen. Unfortunately, he just got backpacked and Aljamain just took his neck, put him to sleep. I think he hasn't lost in forever. Like TJ Dillashaw, yeah, he lost a split decision, but in my eyes, he won that too. Because you look at a fight and you look at damage over control or anything. The control and pressure comes if the fight is, I mean, damage is way more important than the forward pressure. The forward pressure will make sense if the fight is not so active. Then you can say this guy's moving forward and then he deserves to win. But I mean, that was a super active fight, and Sandhagen by far landed the more fight-ending shots, like you said, or the more damaging shots. Like TJ's a tough motherfucker, I'll give him that. But yeah, Corey Sandhagen, man, love to watch that guy. I think he speaks very well. Also, like he has some of his codes and he writes things down. I think it's a cool thing to watch someone manifest and work towards goals and things like how he does.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. I love that. Corey Sandhagen, he's just a G. There's few better ways to say it. He is just a legend, future legend for sure. And that's on to my number 5. And my number 5 is your number 3. It's Valentina Shevchenko. And look, I don't have to go too deep into this because you gave an amazing case for Valentina. She is just an assassin in the octagon. She can pick you apart. She can blow you away. She can tap dance around you, or she can submit you. And no one can do all of that except for Valentina Shevchenko. You know, she makes your strength look average, and that's a very special thing. You know, when she fought Jessica Andrade, a lot of people thought Andrade would do what she did to Nama Yunus and basically nearly break her neck in a takedown. Shevchenko took her down at will, embarrassed her, played with her, and finished her.
Yeah.
You know, people thought Jessica I might be able to kickbox with her. She pulled out one of the most insane head kicks we've ever seen, like a sniper. In fact, I'm convinced Valentina Shevchenko is a sniper as a hobby. Quite frankly, Valentina Shevchenko is the most skilled women's fighter on planet Earth at the moment. Shevchenko or Nunes may have better hands. She may be a better boxer, but I think Shevchenko's the more skilled fighter. For me, there's absolutely no debate whatsoever that Valentina Shevchenko's on my list.
Definition of a badass is Valentina Shevchenko.
Facts.
Number 5, I have a tie, actually. I couldn't decide between the Represent boys, Nate Diaz and Brandon Moreno. I mean, what can you say about... I'll go into Brandon Moreno first. He's the first ever Mexican UFC champion. He took the belt off a scary guy, and he fought him twice. And the second time, he put a real big statement on it. Davison Figueiredo, people were saying that he's the next big thing at flyweight. People were saying he's going to have a run like DJ. Like DJ, excuse me. And Brandon Moreno, in the first fight, stood toe-to-toe with the man. They went all 5 rounds, and then it was a split decision draw. In the second fight, Brandon Moreno, great planning. I love that Mexican-style boxing that he has. He puts him down, and then he chokes him out. I mean, I was so happy for Brandon Moreno. Like, I couldn't even express it at the time. It was almost like Oliveira beating Chandler, like coming back like that. That was one of those moments that you're just so happy. And then Nate Diaz, I mean, the OG of the fight game, like they say. I mean, he fought Leon Edwards in his last fight, lost 4 rounds, but he landed the biggest shot of the night, and everyone went absolutely nuts. Because why not, dude? That's Nate Diaz. He's bleeding from every fucking pore in his skin, but he's still coming forward, and he's still trying to take your head off or choke you out or whatever. I like the realness. I mean, it might be a little cliche, but he just says what he thinks and never minces his words or anything, and he just goes for it. I mean, I really hope he fights in December like he's asking for. It's his last fight on the deal, and we get one last show for Nate Diaz. Maybe he signs again, maybe he doesn't, because if the UFC is offering Khamzat Chimaev to Nate Diaz for his last fight, dude, what are you guys doing?
Dude, it's madness.
Don't do that. That guy's the biggest star. Like, he's held pay-per-view cards without a belt. He's made the fight with McGregor happen, with Masvidal. He doesn't say no to anybody, but like, you got to take care of Nate Diaz. That guy's the man. I mean, what you see is what you get. I love both those guys, Brandon Moreno, Nate Diaz. And I love that they do business together now. That's how cool is that? Like, the opposite side, but they're both so real that they perfectly meet in the middle.
Dude, it's the perfect partnership, and I love both those picks. First of all, onto Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno is just such a special fighter. And again, another amazing story. Got cut. I think he won the LFA flyweight title, got brought back in, beat Davison Figueiredo to a draw, and then beat him with a submission on the ground to win the flyweight title. You can't write this kind of thing. He loves Lego. He's relatable. He's likable. He's marketable. He's just lovable. He's a really, really nice guy.
And he's my size, so I can root for him always,
Exactly. He's nice size. So, yeah. I mean, Cain Velasquez is probably more my size, but I mean, that's neither here nor there. I love Brandon Moreno, really good guy, and I really hope he does go on a DJ type run because he deserves it. Mm-hmm. He's been through the ringer, he's come back, and he's an amazing representative for that flyweight division, not to mention an unbelievable fighter too. And then Nate Diaz, I mean, realistically, we should just light up a spliff in honor of him, but the guy's just a legend, literally will fight anybody, will fight them on the streets of Stockton or in the octagon. The guy is just a badass. He's suited being in that BMF title fight better than anybody could have, because him and Nick Diaz are the original BMFs, arguably. I just love Nate Diaz so much. Even it's kind of funny because he did make the McGregor fight happen. And even at times during the McGregor fights, a part of me kind of wanted Nate to win just because I love him that much. He deserved the payday. He got the 2 money fights, and I hope he gets the third one as well. Yeah. I mean, I don't have to justify Nate Diaz because you did that perfectly. I'm just adding on to that. But my last point that I'll make on the whole situation is the contract situation. Mm-hmm. Give him Tony Ferguson.
Yes, please.
That's the fight that I want to see. Don't give him Chimaev. I mean, look, Nate Diaz is good enough to fight Chimaev, but all you're doing is just trying to insult the guy because he won't sign a new deal. Don't feed him to the guy just to try and take the piss out of him. The guy has bled from every pore in his skin for you. He's put on fights of the year. He's headlined cards without title fights for you. Don't do him like this. Give him the fight that he wants. Give him a fight of the year contender with someone like Tony Ferguson and let it be what it is.
Yeah, 100% agree. I love the Tony fight. I like that what you said about Moreno. He's very relatable and likable. He's just like, it feels like you're my friend basically when he's speaking on the mic, or when he's, hanging out with Izzy eating pizza after a fight. When he's talking to anybody, he's just so genuinely nice that it's a very nice quality to have, on top of being such an excellent expert fighter. And yeah, Nate Diaz, I hope the UFC takes care of him. One of the most underrated things about Nate Diaz, I think, is his brain. I mean, people might say he's silly and stupid or whatever because he's been hit in the head or smokes and this and that, but honestly, he's one of the smartest people ever. Made the McGregor fight happen, got another one, made a ton of money, became one of the biggest stars in the game, and then made the Masvidal fight happen. They made a whole belt. They made a whole card at MSG just because of Nate Diaz. He said, I have this belt and I will defend it against Jorge Masvidal and things like that. So he's so smart. Calls out the perfect people. And he's also such a good guy. Like what he told Leon Edwards after their fight, he told him, you don't take what they give you, you get what you think you deserve, something along those lines. And that was a really awesome thing for him to say, because Leon's confidence has been shot because of unfortunate events in the past couple of years, although he has a massive win streak. So I think coming from a guy like Nate Diaz, a true veteran, a true OG, like they say, of the game, must have meant a lot to Leon. And that's a really cool thing that he did.
It was, yeah. I'm really glad you mentioned that because that's a real classy thing of him to do as well. He could have written that. He could have, in his post-fight interview especially, he could have written that and said that, I've done this, I'm the real winner of this fight. But to say that really says everything. And, if I had to compare Nate Diaz to someone who somehow doesn't know who he is, to me, Nate Diaz is the modern-day Jake LaMotta. If you know Jake LaMotta is. Basically, Jake, if you've ever heard of Sugar Ray Robinson, you'll have heard of Jake LaMotta, old school fighter in the 40s and 50s. And the punishment Jake LaMotta took in his fights was just legendary. Mm-hmm. And Nate Diaz is like that. Jake LaMotta was this one tough son bitch, and Nate Diaz is exactly the same. But Nate Diaz is probably smarter and all that sort of stuff. every time I see Nate Diaz doing well, I'm happy because he thoroughly deserves it. He deserves every success that he gets, and I hope he is looked after because he deserves to be looked after. He really does.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff that he says and does, I mean, just it's very, I don't know, I'm really become like a fan of people who do good things and, you know, say real things outside of the octagon as well.
Yeah.
Like you hear like number of stories about Nate Diaz, especially of how he takes care of his team and people who need things and this and that. So that's really awesome. True. I mean, he's a gangster, like, but he's also like one of the nicest, genuine people on the roster as well.
But that's the best kind of gangster. You know, people think
exactly.
People think that gangsters, these people that basically screw over anyone and everyone they know, and they're only about themselves. And Nate Diaz is not that.
He's not at all.
I mean, I'm assuming you follow him on Instagram as well, right? I mean, the amount of times he gives his boy Chris Avila the shout out as well. Like the platform Nate Diaz has, and he's always saying, like, shout out my homeboy Chris Avila, 209, all that kind of stuff. The amount that he looks after his team and the fact that he stayed with his team for so long, it is really incredible. And even every time people anytime anyone tries to give Nate credit, he always says Nick's the best, Nick's the original gangster and all that kind of stuff. I mean, when you dig through everything and all the bravado that Nate is so good at building, he's just a really nice guy. And no one ever gives him enough credit for that. They really don't.
Yeah, I'm glad that we could bring it up. And even the deal they did with Brandon Moreno, they were just sitting next to each other in a press conference. Weeks later, Brandon Moreno has now got a shirt line from Represent LTD. That's Nate Diaz's company. So, I mean, that's just so cool. Like, I love both those guys. Can't talk enough about them.
Oh, most definitely. We could probably do an entire episode of Moreno.
Absolutely.
If we could.
All right. I think that wraps it up for today. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think we've covered a lot here. I think we've spoken a lot of sense. I'm glad there's some things that we were able to bring out of things that weren't even scheduled. And yeah, another great episode, bro.
Yep. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify. We're working on, and we got the Apple podcast going. So check us out, share. You know, it always helps us, makes us feel good, as many views as we get, even though people say it's not what it's about, and it's not, but it does make you feel good. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, as well, one thing I will add as well, you have any thoughts on what we're talking about, you have your own views, leave them in the comments as well. We will be interacting with you, and we will get back to you as much as we can. So you got your views, anything you're happy about, anything you want us to talk about, please feel free to leave it down below. We will get back to you too.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything you can think of. That's a really good point. Put it in the comments. Positive, negative, I don't care. It's good. If you want to be on the show sometime, hit us up, whatever you'd like. And yeah, thank you for tuning in. Keelin, thanks for hanging, and take care, brother.
Bro, absolutely. Thank you. And thank everybody else. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Yep. See you next week.